It's time for Push2Plat, your weekly trophy podcast with Mindy and CJ.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to episode 51 of Push2Plat. We're on the downhill slide to episode 100. Now, I am very lucky to be joined by a fellow podcaster today. I've been listening to this lady for some time, listeners, and I've been hoping that we could organize this around finally happening. And it's finally happening now. So this is going to be delightful for me. Now we have the host here. The host of the Proven Gamer flagship podcast, Game Stuff, a gamer across all systems, including that mystifying PC, which we'll probably talk a little bit about today, I think, listeners. The wonderful Kalai, how are you today?
I'm wonderful, and thank you so much for having me on. It really is a pleasure, and I was bragging to the other people of the Game Stuff podcast how I'm going to be on your show.
Well, we'll wait until the end and see if it's still a pleasure or not. You know, it's early days. So, look, I know you, you know me a little bit, but the listeners may not know you yet. So would you like to share a little bit of your background about who you are and, what you enjoy playing and that sort of stuff?
Sure. I'm a gamer, and I am over the age of 40. We're just going to say that right now because I'm going to date myself. My first actual system, the first system I ever played on, was the Pac-Man arcade, because I was lucky enough that my father owned a business where he would rent out arcade machines to all of the campgrounds in the area that we lived. And during the winter, when the campgrounds closed, they would be forced to be brought back, and my father didn't want to pay for storage of them, so he would put them in everybody's houses. So everybody's house had to take an arcade system or two.
That is fantastic. So you were born to be a gamer?
Yes. Actually, apparently there's pictures of me at 3 years old on a milk crate so I could reach the Pac-Man controls.
That is fantastic. We've had quite a few guests, but I don't think we've had anyone that's been in such a natural an environment to foster gaming from such a young age. Wow. Does that mean your parents were gamers themselves, or were they just sort of in the business of it?
So my mother hates any kind of gaming whatsoever. My father loved gaming, but not necessarily video games. He did play a little bit of video games, but we played a lot more card games, like huge card games like Cribbage and Pinochle. And at one point in our lives, me and my father had created a betting game just for solitaire, and we would go back and forth playing solitaire. I think at one point I owed him over $30.
How did you get to the gaming that you enjoy now? What was the process?
I mean, I've always had a system. So the first system I ever owned was a ColecoVision. I don't know if you know what that is.
Look, I've heard Mindy say the term before, but please enlighten me.
It's a very old system. It's actually coming back. I think there was a Kickstarter for them to create a new system. But one of the original games on the system was like the Smurfs.
Oh, okay.
It was really hard. It was really stupid, but I loved it. And then when the Nintendo came out, I actually had a gentleman who had lived next door to me that had one. And I saw it and I really wanted it. So I'm like, I want a Nintendo. I want a Nintendo so bad. So that's what I asked for Christmas. No, I didn't get it for Christmas. My sister, who's not a gamer, got the Nintendo system. And I got some off-brand shit that came with a gun that I couldn't even tell you what that shit was. It was so knockoff, it wasn't even funny. So my mom said, well, we wanted to give you each a system and now you can share. I don't know about you, dude, but I don't know if you can share with your siblings.
Yeah. See, I always find this funny because you hear about how gaming, it's good for kids, it's good for, young people because it teaches us how to share. But look, I agree with you. I don't think, well, look, maybe they're more adjusted now today, young people. But I don't think it taught me how to share.
No, it didn't with me. My sister'd be like, you're not allowed in my room. I'm like, but you have the Nintendo. So the Nintendo was very expensive. And me and my father owned a business for all of our life, so we would work for my father, we'd save our money. My sister actually saved her money, and a couple months later for my birthday, bought me my own Nintendo system.
Oh, wow.
So that's actually how I got my first Nintendo, is my sister bought it for me. and I must have been 7 or 8, which made my sister 6 or 7 at the time. So,
Do you think she did it out of sisterly love, or did she just want you to get out of her room?
no, it was sisterly love. Her and I were very close. We still are close. She actually likes to watch me game. So during our summers when we were off from school, I would sit and play, and I'm terrible at directions. Thank God they put maps in our current video games now. Oh, my sister would have to be like, "No, go here. No, go there." And in fact, I've beaten like almost every Super Mario game, except technically I've never beaten Super Mario Brothers 2. I finally got to the end boss, and I couldn't beat the boss to save the life for me. And my sister said, "Let me give it a try." And I said, "Okay, sure, you're not going to get it." And she got it on the first try, so that was the way I beat Super Mario Brothers 2, which means I technically didn't beat the game.
Well, it still counts.
Oh, thank you.
Look, I'm interested how you got to this position now, because you play on everything, don't you?
I do play on everything. I started out with an Xbox 360. I've had stuff before. I've had almost every system except Sega, because come on, Sega sucks. Nintendo for life. I'm gonna rage a lot of people.
Oh, I love it.
But I wanted an Xbox 360 because of Fallout. I saw Fallout and I fell in love with Fallout. And at the time, I was actually playing World of Warcraft. And my husband's like, "You can't have an Xbox." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "I hate Microsoft. You're not having Microsoft in my house. There's no Microsoft products allowed in my house." I'm like, excuse me?" So I wound up taking him to a Best Buy and handing him the controller with Madden on. And he was like, "Wow, Madden's so much better on the 360 than on the Nintendo Wii. You think?" So I convinced him to get me an Xbox 360 so he could play Madden and I could play my games. And I convinced him to get his own 360 because as much as I love my husband, like, if you want to share my food, my dessert, that's fine, honey. But your ass better not be touching my Xbox or my PlayStation. So, of course, when the Xbox One came out, me and my husband both pre-ordered it. We took off of work and we stayed home because we couldn't wait to play our system. There was nothing to play on it, but hell, we couldn't wait to play it.
You just had to get that little dig in at Microsoft. I love it. And how nothing has changed. It's fantastic.
That's not true. There's some stuff on there, and I'll talk about that. Then I wanted a PlayStation because all my friends wanted PlayStation, and my husband's like, "No, we can't have PlayStation." So I was like, "I want a PlayStation." So, of course, I got a PlayStation. Then he got a PlayStation because, again, we can't share. So we have 2 Xboxes, 2 PlayStations. A couple years ago, I needed a brand new computer. My computer was over 10 years old. I play Civ with my friends, and I wanted a computer. I wanted a cheap computer. I wanted a cheap computer that I could just, like, do, surf the web on it or check my email when I needed to check my email. And so I was looking at deals, and my husband's like, "Kalai, you want VR?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want PlayStation VR." He goes, "That's shit. You can't have PlayStation VR. That's crap. It's going to make you sick. If you're going to get VR, you might as well get it for the PC, so we better get you a computer that can handle VR." I'm like, "Did you just agree to buy me VR? All right, I'll take it."
And not any VR, PC VR, the real
PC
VR.
VR. Yeah, the real VR. Yeah. So I got this system intent on maybe playing a game or two, but mostly VR. Well, I had met a good friend of mine, Veronica, and her husband Matt. They're very good friends of mine. And Matt is very big into PC gaming, so I got into PC gaming, and then I saw the wonders of PC gaming, and I don't know if you know this, one of my episodes I couldn't record because I melted the GPU on my laptop. I had gamed so hard that I actually melted the GPU. I had the laptop 2 years before I did that. So we had to build an emergency computer for me. And of course it can't be just any computer. I have to have top end. So I am running a 2080 Ti with an i7 9-core system with 16 gigs of RAM. When I say this is the most beautiful thing and this is what next gen is going to look like, I played Control. It was beautiful. CJ, if you could ever play on a system like that, it was beautiful. The ray tracing, it was gorgeous.
Yeah, look, I know you just threw out a whole lot of letters and numbers, which mean absolutely nothing to me, as the listeners know. But look, I'm impressed that you're excited about that. But what you haven't said here, Kalai, is how many hours did it take you to make the thing work so you could play Control on it? 30, 40, 100? How long before it was ready to actually go?
2 days, technically. Only because, so here's what I did. My good friend Matt built it. And that's a funny story. So he does my computer building, and I thank him so much by like buying him food. He's like, no, you don't need to buy me anything. His wife's like, shut up. I'm like, okay, where do you want to go? He started with my computer. We were going to do what's called a water cooling GPU to keep the temperature down, and it didn't fit in my case. So, like, literally the only reason it took him so long to build my case is because the parts didn't fit. So I had to run to Micro Center, buy a second 2080 Ti, and return the first one to Amazon so I could get my computer up and running for the recording on Tuesday.
So I can see that playing on the PlayStation would be quite boring to you because you just turn it on and it works. But, I mean, you know, you've opened the door on PC gaming here. Do you, like, and honestly here, you know, I know the standard bullshit that PC gamers give, but how much problems do you have with the system in trying to get, you know, the drives, get everything working so you can play the games?
I don't have many problems because I have such an updated high-end PC.
Okay. Now, well, okay. Well, then on the flip side, how long will this actually still be high functioning PC at the top of the level? How many days before it's replaced, you know, or needs to be?
It's actually going to be a lot longer than you think.
Mm-hmm.
In comparison, the 1660 Ti is still a relevant card, and that card came out a couple years ago, 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So all my stuff is going to be relevant for a very long time because I future-proof my computer. So when I built my computer, I spent a lot of money, but the intent that I won't have to spend money down the line to make it better to play a game that I can't play. I didn't ever want to run into that problem.
That makes sense. So then on the flip side, so you play on this, you know, if we accept that PC is the master race, you know, it's graced by a special sort of individual, a gamer, then how do you go back and play games on the Xbox? And admittedly, the Xbox X is also a fantastically powerful machine, but still not a PC yet. And then specifically the PlayStation 4, which is, you know, look, I'm not sure what that thing is. It exists, I suppose, is enough to say. How do you play games on that then when you could be playing them on the PC at a much higher quality? Does that worry you, that sort of graphical fidelity and, you know, the tracing, as you said, and all this, or do you make exceptions for certain games?
I was making exceptions. Those exceptions are becoming far and few between. Borderlands is the best example. I pre-ordered the collector's edition. I actually got the big collector's edition of Borderlands because me and my husband love Borderlands.
Did you get a nice statue with that?
No, you got the actual loot crate box that you see in the game.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I actually have the box. So I wanted to play it on PC so bad because it was just going to look so beautiful on my PC. My husband at the time did not have a PC. So he's like, no, we got to play it on Xbox. I'm like, what? I don't want to play it on Xbox. We have to play it with me. You have to play. Listeners, I'm going to tell you something right now. People get jealous because me and my husband both play video games, and everybody's like, oh, you've got a wife that plays video games. That's so awesome. However, this asshole makes me make my first playthrough with him. So I have to play Borderlands 3, the game I've been waiting for, on his schedule.
Oh, I love it. I mean, last week, Kalai, we talked about, it's kind of ironic. It's come full circle. We talked about actually finding people to talk gaming with, just in real life and everyday life. And I mean, you've got too much to talk to, I think, here, don't you, with your husband, by the sound of it? Yeah, it's almost like you'd like a bit of distance with your gaming, by the sound of it.
Oh, no. That's not my problem. My problem, he doesn't have time to game because he's so busy.
Okay.
He has an hour and a half commute every day to work and back. So when he gets home at 8 o'clock, he doesn't want to game. So I'm like, oh, let's play Borderlands. Oh, no, I'm too tired. And then the weekend comes, and I'm like, oh, let's play Borderlands. Oh, no, let's go out to dinner, or let's do this. I'm like, oh, well, let's play Monster Hunter. Okay. So, like, I'm only chapter 7 of 23. And the game's been out a year.
Well, it's still not bad, yeah. Well, look, we'll get into games in a minute. Okay, so then now you also play on Nintendo Switch as well, I believe?
Yes. I love Nintendo.
I have to ask then, out of all these systems, you've got the PC, the Xbox, the PS4, the Switch, do you have a preferred system then for gaming?
PC and Switch. PC when I'm home, Switch for when I'm on the go. I love the Switch because I travel a lot. I go see my family a lot, and so the ability to just pick up my Switch and take it down there to play games. My mom goes to bed at 9 o'clock, and me and my husband go in the bedroom so she has quiet, and we play Monster Hunter on our Switches together.
I love it. Now, before we get, well, yeah, we'll get into that. No, actually, we'll do it now, listeners. You know, I'm just, you know, my brain is slowly catching up. I want to ask you, because I think I already know the answer looking at your profile, but are you trophy hunter and achievement hunter. Would you classify yourself as one of those?
I kind of got into it for a little bit because when I first found the Proven Gamer Network, which I don't know if Tricky ever told you how we met,
No.
he didn't.
No.
He was actually very random. When the PlayStation VR was coming out, right before they came out, PlayStation did a tour of the GameStops. You can go to a local GameStop and try VR. And my husband wanted me to try it to see if it would make me sick. So I'm like, oh my god, our GameStop is having this tour. We have to go. We have to go. We have to go. I ran home. I made my husband stop work early and take me to GameStop because he wanted to play with us. And lo and behold, apparently they wanted a special guest for the VR, and somehow they found Tricky, and Tricky drove all the way to my GameStop. And that's how I met Tricky and got into the Proven Gamer Network.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, I mean, look, he's a fantastic PlayStation representative, so it's no surprise to me.
He really is.
Isn't that a bizarre?
He actually said to me, "I can tell you're a true gamer because you have a PS Vita."
Yes. Well, look, and he knows the power of the Vita, Kalai. Let me tell you that. He is a master of the skipping Vita, I believe. So that's high praise for you there. I would take that. I don't know how you feel about Japanese VNs, but they are what they are, I suppose. Anyway, let's move on. Now, what I want to do before we get into some games and stuff, I'd like to ask you about your podcast as well, Game Stuff. You're a co-host there with Roberto and Joe. I'm interested, how did you start? Like, how did you get into it? How did you meet? What was the driving force behind it?
I was an idiot and didn't understand something on Facebook. Would you believe that?
Yes, possibly. So you didn't mean to start podcasting. You got
No.
sucked into it.
No. So Joe and I were friends on the Facebook group, and I hardly we were just talking back and forth on the Facebook only. And for whatever reason, he's like, "We should start a Nintendo podcast." And as a joke, I said yes.
And you had no idea what you were getting into then?
No, I had no idea what I was getting into. Tricky was nice enough to put us all together in a group and start figuring out how to do all this stuff, and it was a tough start. It was very hard learning how to do it.
Well, I mean, you're on what 123 episodes now. So you've been going for some time. You've been going since the beginning, haven't you?
Yes, I've been I'm the person that's most on the every episode. There's only been maybe like a couple of episodes that I didn't make.
That's a massive commitment. I know, like, the listeners, they just expect something to come every week, and if it doesn't come, they get a bit angry. I'm thinking of a Mr. Levi here. Gets a bit angry, gets on the thing. Just where's my thing? Where is it? I wanna listen now. I'm coming down the mountain. It's my time. I don't care about you. Talk for me now, Kalai. That's what they're like. I don't know if your listeners are like that.
I know that, but for me, that was so amazing, and it really, really helped me to continue podcasting. There was a whole month that I refused to podcast. Just refused. Because I was burnt out. I was doing a lot of shit, and I was getting no feedback. But now that I have feedback, like, originally, our PAX episode, the episode before PAX, I wasn't even going to do, because when we record, I was going to be packing. But I literally, record it and edit it and put the episode out because I knew Levi was looking for it. So I just didn't want him to not have an episode.
That's fantastic. I like that. Now, you've spoken PAX there briefly. You've obviously been there in the last couple of weeks. You did a fantastic... In fact, your last episode, number 123, which is available now, listeners, is all about the games that you played at PAX. So I don't really want to go into that specifically, although you might like to go into that in a moment. But I just want to ask you about the overall experience of PAX this year. I mean, there's a lot going on this year. How was it?
It was amazing. PAX is always amazing for me because I play board games as well. Because I like all kinds of gaming. I'm not going to get too much into that, but I'm very lucky enough that a couple of years ago, I ran into some guys who had started their own business, and they had this card game that I fell in love with and loved to play with them. Every time I saw them, I'd sit down and play with them. Well, at one of the conventions a couple years ago, they were like, we could use your help at your next convention. We'll buy your tickets. You'll just have to do your own hotel room. I'm like, okay, what convention? He was like, oh, it's PAX East. Would you mind going? I was like, what? Yes. And I ran and found my husband. I was like, can we go to PAX East? And he's like, what? Yes. And so now every year I go actually as a vendor.
Oh, okay. So you're displaying stuff as well then. Is that what you mean by this term? Or
Yes,
oh.
yes. I stay at my booth a lot, but in the mornings we tend to be not busy, so I can walk the floor and talk to the developers. Also, I'm the one that picks up our tickets because I go out the day before PAX, so I pick up everybody's tickets, and everybody's on the floor setting up their booths. So I kind of take a walk around and get to see what the booths look like before there's a million people there.
Oh, so you get to see both sides of it. That's fantastic. What I want to ask you about, obviously, this Corona and stuff like this, there's a lot going on, and Sony as well. There's a lot going on. Well, there may be nothing going on there, to be honest. PS5, who even knows if that really exists or not? But it supposedly does. We'll see. So there's a lot happening. How was the atmosphere this year? You've been before, obviously. Was it subdued or different in feel or?
No, I mean, you saw people wearing masks. I thought, because we do card games. I do a lot of card games, and everybody's touching those card games. So I bought Purell and put Purell out, and people loved that. People were thanking us, but no, it was the atmosphere was there. Everybody was loving it. Everybody was, working together. It was an amazing experience. It was really nothing too subdued about it at all.
Read that E3 we read in the last couple of days has been cancelled. It's no great surprise. Everything has been cancelled or whatever else. And then I read that you mentioned that maybe there's a bit more going on than this virus. I wonder if we share the same sentiments about here with the PS5. This perhaps being fortuitous for Sony. Perhaps this inevitable delay of the system, perhaps into next year. Do you read much into that? Do you think maybe they're not as far along as we like to think?
I don't know. I think they are farther along. I think that there might be something else going on. I mean, with E3 being canceled, they weren't going to go to E3 anyways. I think they're trying to get everything set for their conference because they always do their own conference, and that's when they're going to want to announce. A couple of weeks ago, one of my listeners asked if I thought that that Sony was waiting for Xbox to release their pricing first so they could slide under and make it cheaper. No, I don't think that's a thing either. I think, PlayStation is gonna release, and Xbox has already come out and saying that they're gonna have several models, so the pricing isn't gonna matter because there'll be a model that will be fitting to your budget.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't see Microsoft slowing down, which I think is fantastic. I think they're just running with it now, and so I mean, how they'll react to this manufacturing nightmare that's gonna happen over the next few months, I'm not sure, but at least they're moving forward. I mean, we saw Ori release the other day, which is it almost feels to me like the beginning of the next generation when I started playing that game last night, and it's very exciting. I think what will happen over the next few months. Now, what I want to ask is, I've never been to PAX. I'm sure it's fantastic. It's never hugely attracted me that many people in that sort of an environment all fighting over things to touch, I suppose. But there is a PAX offshoot in Australia, in Melbourne. It happens later in the year. I'm considering going. Do you have any tips for PAX? How to survive it, if you like?
Okay, do you have a Vita?
I do, yes. I have a couple.
Oh, good. Bring your Vita so you have something to do while you stand in line. Drink plenty of water. Don't eat the convention food. That's just me.
That's the most common thing I hear about E3 too.
Yeah, oh my god, it's terrible. I lived off nuts and mixed nuts and beef jerky. But no, it's an amazing experience, especially if you can get like a media badge, because a media badge you might not necessarily have to stand in line. As a media person, you can make appointments.
Yes, that would be much more preferable to dealing with the common, drift draft of people, I suppose. But yeah. Okay, now I want to completely change tacks here for a moment, if we could. When I first pitched the idea of twisting your arm to come on the show, we had a bit of a back and forth about a few different things, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but something that came up was just very briefly was just females in gaming. Now and I think I'm guilty of this too, because I don't think about this issue a lot, but many months ago, in fact, just after we'd started, I read something that someone wrote on Twitter. Now, Twitter, whatever, there's a lot of interesting things written there, but this thing has stuck with me the whole time. And the reason I want to ask you is, you run a similar ship to myself and Mindy, in that, there are not too many podcasts that I listen to, or not too many gaming podcasts that have both sexes represented, I suppose, both male and female points of view, which I think is valid. But what this thing said was, it was basically a call out to male podcasters. And they were like, do you overtalk your female host? Or are you conscious of how much time your female host gets to speak compared to male hosts? And this was based on studies done, not on gaming podcasts, but on general podcasts. So this is a question that I want to ask to you, because it's been conscious in my mind ever since we've almost started our show. Are you conscious of that? Do you find that men overtalk sometimes?
Actually, it happened a lot in our podcast, but not because I'm female. If you can go back and get the original episodes of like episode 2, 3, 4, 8, there's a guy named Corey on. Corey's from Canada, from the other side of Canada. So like our time differences were horrendous. We were recording at, I kid you not, 2 o'clock in the morning. It was awful. I can't stay up past 10 o'clock, let alone 2 o'clock in the morning. Joe and Corey had such a fantastic rapport. I mean, it was an amazing rapport. However, because of the rapport, they would go into a conversation and forget there was other people on the podcast. So if you listen to my podcast now, Joe is more cognizant of that, and he'll say, I want to hear from Kalai, or what does Kalai have to say, because he remembers to throw the conversation back to me. So that's never been an issue on our podcast.
What do you think, though, not specifically your podcast, but just more in general when you listen to stuff? Like, do you feel... See, I've never thought about that before, and I think because, I obviously have no problem with women. Most of my best friends are female. I have a lot of very powerful and strong women in my life, and always have, which I think is fantastic. But I never... And I don't think it's necessarily a conscious thing. I think maybe it just happens. But you don't seem to find that across listening to other shows?
No, I don't listen to a lot of shows because I listen to you guys, and you guys, I don't feel that you guys have it. So, other than that, I listen to the Loop Brothers, which really doesn't have women, and I was listening to like some of the IGN shows that had a couple of women, but no, I don't find that.
Okay, well, we'll move on. I just thought I was just interested in that sort of thing. And look at the Loot Bros. Could you imagine what they would do if they had a regular woman? I mean, it wouldn't be safe for anyone.
It was really funny because if you listen to did you listen to the first episode I was on the Loot Brothers?
I did, yes.
He had to specifically ask a question of one of the guys, and he said, this question is for you and you alone, so he wouldn't have to ask the group and make me feel uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole nother dynamic, isn't it? Because I know you're a host, of your own show as well. And I think that's something that perhaps some of the listeners don't realize is, as the host, it's more fun being the guest. Because you've always got, this sort of stuff running through your time, don't you? Equal division of time, moving the topic, whether it's appropriate, how close to the line can you go, without crossing it and stuff. So, yeah. I like that. That's interesting. But look, I think the listeners, they've had enough of the general banter, Clyde. They want to hear about some sort of a game. So I'm going to open it up to you. What would you like to start with? Throw something out at us.
Well, I can start with the game I was playing this morning. I was playing Outer Worlds.
Excellent. That would be perfect. Yes.
Have you played that game?
Well, now, hang on a sec. There's two, the Outer Worlds and the Outer Wilds. This is the spaceship one, isn't it? The Worlds one.
Yes, Outer Worlds is the one that is from the same studio as New Vegas, which is one of the best Fallout games out there.
So that's the one we're talking about, yes?
Yes.
Yes, I played 5 minutes of it, so you're going to have to tell me about it.
Oh my god, how can you not play this game? First of all, it's not a big, long role-playing game.
Well, sell me on it.
They did an amazing job with New Vegas. They took all of that and they made another game, not in the Fallout universe, but with basically some of the same Fallout principles. But they took it a step further. So in this game, your choices can really affect the game. Because my husband's playing the game too. I made my character talkative. So I get a lot of dialogue options. I've seen people make them with no intelligence, and one of the options is because literally their character can't say anything.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I've gotten to a point in the game where I I had to divert power from one settlement to a bigger station, or do I save the little people, or do I cut off their electricity and force them to go back to the people that were enslaving them? Mm-hmm. I, of course, forced them to go back, but then manipulated the guy in charge to step down and no longer be the governor of that city, that little town, and the person who was running the little offshoot became the governor. My husband, on the other hand, decided to save everybody in the little town and divert all the electricity to there. So now he is shoot on sight in a major town in the entire storyline.
That's interesting. So you're in a unique position because often with a lot of these games, they end up funneling the decisions to a common goal that potentially doesn't matter. But it sounds from what you're describing like there's a lot of variation then in the paths that you play.
Yes, there is an end goal. Like, there's an end goal. It's just like if you've ever played a Fallout game. The Fallout, technically, or Skyrim, you can play the main campaign. I think there's speedruns of up to 5 hours to beat the game, which is crazy. But, like, the side quests can really, like, affect you and stuff. So, like, he can't get a lot of the side quests because he just totally killed the town. The town does not like him. And as you go along and play, the game evaluates you. This morning, I got, they found a flaw in me. Physical damage weakness. Taking too much physical damage has made you soft and vulnerable to more physical damages. So, if I take it, I have to accept it. My physical damage received is plus 25, but I get a perk to add to my character. And I took the perk.
So it's almost like you're metamorphosizing your character as you go. Yeah, okay, it's not static at all. That's an interesting take. Yeah.
And it has one of the best upgradable systems ever in a role-playing game, because I don't know if you've played role-playing games where you have to like add like, oh, do I want to increase my guns, or do I want to increase like, my use of a rocket launcher, or do I want to increase like my ability to charisma? It does it in groups. So I can increase all of my group when I level up, or all of my charm abilities, which is very interesting. I don't have to decide if I want to do a specific gun. I can just upgrade all my guns.
When I started, like I lied, I played probably like 15 minutes, not just 5. And I spent quite a bit of time in the character creation because this game, it's very elaborate, as you say, and it harks back to me to old school RPGs, if you like, in that you could put, these points in charisma, but it all broke down into other areas as well, and I found it a little intimidating, to be honest. And in the back of my mind was like, wow, well, if this continues through the game where you're just making small tweaks to all these things, it's going to be a lot to take in. But from what you're saying, it's more of a progressive thing.
It is, and I highly, highly recommend you play it. In fact, I recommend anybody play this game. I mean, I love this game. It's probably one of my favorites, but I don't have a lot of time to play, so I get like an hour here or an hour there. I can jump in and get some stuff done, and you can collect people to help you out. And the choices are just funny. The dialogue is just hysterical in the game. So depending on how you make your character, you can get some great dialogue going.
Excellent. And now, where are you playing this? Is this on PC or Xbox?
Yes.
Yes, PC?
No.
Oh, Xbox.
Both.
Oh, you're playing on both? Okay, sorry, of course. Well, see, I forget that they're so advanced they can do that, This cross-play. What is that? That's fantastic. And, of course, that's on Game Pass as well. And, look at that. It's free. I mean, what is going on over there, Kalai? What is going on?
Yes.
I don't understand. We better move on to the next game. It's too much for my small brain to understand, my small Sony pony brain.
Okay, how about Nintendo? I've been playing Let's Go Pikachu.
Oh, well, look, I love. It's a Pokemon, this thing, isn't it? This Pikachu. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
That's the fact that I know that is impressive. So look, you educate me here. There are a couple of listeners that love the Pokemons. I don't know about them myself, but I'm always happy to entertain it for a couple of minutes.
It's the original reason why Pokemon was created.
No, look, I don't know. Surprisingly, I don't know.
It was created for Japanese children to help them learn their kanji. That's why they're all 2-syllable names.
Oh, now that is interesting. Okay, I did not know that.
And it took off. Of course, Let's Go Pikachu is a remake of Pokemon Yellow, but it uses the Go mechanics. I don't know if you guys play Go over there, but you basically have to catch Pokemon instead of fighting them, which I kind of like. And it's just in my backlog, so I'm trying to get through the backlog beatdown.
Now, look, I don't know anything about these Pokemon, but I have an interesting story. So, my lack of knowledge, listeners, is not going to stop me from airing my lack of knowledge on this subject. But now you might find this interesting, Kalai, because you obviously love these sort of games. But I was talking to a child, I don't know how old. It's always hard to tell. They're of an age. They're children. Who knows? So, I'm going to say 11. That seems like a good number. And he was telling me a couple of weeks ago in Melbourne, here in Australia, they had some big Pokemon tournament. I believe this is with the cards or whatever, not the computer game, but it's the same thing, I'm sure. And anyway, so it's a big thing. People come from around the world, apparently, for this, I think. Or whatever else, and so he plays. He's quite highly ranked. I think he's ranked 14th in the world or something for this, which is fascinating. How some people choose to spend their time and parents their money, I suppose. But he was telling me more interestingly, Clay, he has a Pokemon coach that actually coaches him because he's trying to qualify for the World Championships, which are in the UK. So isn't that wonderful? You can become a coach in this as well.
Yes, I could never be a coach, especially in the video game, because apparently, I don't know if you know this, but this recently, for the first time ever, a 7-year-old girl won the Pokemon Championships. When she accepted her award, she had a stuffed Pikachu or a stuffed Eevee with her that she carried around because she was literally 7 years old.
Well, see, I can understand that age group. I'd be a little alarmed if you said it was a 27-year-old. I mean, but it still has traction, doesn't it, with that age group?
Yep, but at the same time, the reason why it has traction is because how deep of a game this is.
Okay.
Because if you look at it on the outside, you're like, oh, you catch Pokemon, you fight Pokemon. Do you know some people restart the game 30 times?
Well, that's a poor choice, a poor life choice. But...
Well, you know why? No. Because of the nature of the Pokemon. Oh. They're looking for specific natures so they can create the best Pokemon.
Well, there's many things that have passed me by in life, Kalai, and unfortunately this is just another one of those things, I feel, but it's great. It's great. So you mentioned you have an interest in card games. Do you play any of the card version of this game, or are you only playing the computer style games?
I really only play the computer games. I played for a hot minute the Pokemon game, and then I sold cards because I can make money off of it. I did play, if you listen to the Loot Brothers, Magica.
That is definitely enough time on Pokemon. That's enough time for this year, I feel. So let's move on to the next game.
What else have I been playing? It's hard because I haven't had a lot of time. Of course, I've been playing Borderlands 3 because I'm a huge fan of that game. Are you playing that, CJ?
Look, no, I started it, and I'm not a big Borderlands fan. I've never really played the other... Well, it's not that I'm not I'm impartial, I suppose. I know, I've never really played the game, so I can't... It's not that I don't like them. I just have never played them, so I don't really know.
I was going to ask you if you ever plat them, but I guess that's a no.
No, look, that is way more than an hour plat, Kalai, so there's no chance of that. But, no, I haven't. Although I understand at some point there was an Australian team involved in one of them. It might have been the pre-sequel or maybe Australian voice actor. There was something Australian about one of the games at some point, I know. So I probably should give it a look, but I have not. Can I suggest one, perhaps, for you to talk about? Now, I don't know if you're currently still playing this, but I know you've put a lot of time into this, and this is Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Oh, I love that game. Xenoblade Chronicles is one of my favorite games. I have 120 hours or 100 hours into the game, and I'm still halfway through the game. And I go back and forth, like I'll play it for... The problem is that I would play that game and not play any of my other games.
Now, this is on the Switch, isn't it?
It is on the Switch. I played the original Xenoblade... Not the original. The original is Xenogears, which is on PlayStation, which is on Vita. Because it was a PSP game. Then I actually did play the original Xenoblade 1, and it took me 150 hours to beat that. I played it on the 3DS.
What attracts you to that game?
I like the mechanism of how they do leveling, how there's a lot of quests, so you don't necessarily have to level. I like how in-depth the game is, because you have to send out your blades. So in Xenoblade Chronicles, you can wield a blade. The blade is a character. It actually forms a character that fights next to you and buffs you while you're making these moves. And so you have to send these blades out to go on missions, and that helps level them, and that helps get you supplies to make your stuff better. And it's just, there's just so much in-depth stuff. There's you have to gather a bunch of shit. Like as you're walking, you're like, I'm going to pick that up. I'm going to pick that up. And you get to somebody who's like, oh, I need you to pick up 20 herbs. And the next thing you know, you're already done because you had picked them all the way up on the way to the village. It's a beautiful game.
It really is. It's funny because now I'm going to butcher the name here, but look, I don't care. But I'm not sure if you ever played this game. I played it on Vita, this Wise... I'm not sure if you're used to this Japanese series, this Wise series, but the Wise Memories of Celceta. Now, it's like this, but it's like a simplified version in a way, or a less... I mean, it's still a fantastic game and a massive game, but a smaller version of what Xenoblade, I suppose, is. And they just, as you say, they just suck you in, don't they? I don't know what it is, but... Maybe it is that it's so streamlined with the quests and the leveling, I think, because I hate a JRPG where you just stand and smash something for hours to build your level to move on. But
Oh, like Final Fantasy.
that was a cheap shot. I like it. Well, yes, look, that's exactly like Final Fantasy. Well, look, I think there's another game like that we'll talk about in the topic today. So let's move on now. I want to ask you about these because, you're clearly not a trophy whore, which, is a good thing, I suppose, or an achievement whore. You're playing for the games. You're playing for fun, which is a fantastic thing. That's almost what the games were made for, Kalai, I believe, I've been told. But I don't know. I'm not sure here because then I want to ask you about this. Now, I see you've played. I know you're a big supporter of Ratalaika. You had a run-in with them or whatever else at the PAX. And I see, these games are notoriously known for trophy hunters, and quick trophies and platinums. Now, I see you've played a few here, like Warlock's Tower, Red Bow, Deep Space Rush is here. You've got your Gravity Duck. That's wonderful. The bouncy bullets, you weren't a big fan of that, but look, nobody is. That's not a surprise. You're Siberian, the time-traveling warrior. You didn't finish the plat on that, which is interesting because it only takes like 5 minutes. You did your Devious Dungeon too. So you've done your Iron Snout, which you probably didn't do with a turbo controller, so that would have been fun and monotonous. You've done your Super...
Which one?
Your Iron Snout. That was the one where you were the pig, if you remember.
I loved that game, actually. And you're right, and I didn't use a turbo controller with it.
No, that's right. Well, this is where I'm heading, and I see you did your Super Weekend mode, and it took you more than 5 minutes, so you actually played the game here. You probably got some enjoyment out of it. What do these games hold for you? Do like, obviously, as I said, you're not playing them for the trophies. What do you think of them?
Well, I like the company, and you probably notice I have a lot of their games.
Yes.
Because one of the things about Ratalaika is they're very good about giving out review codes to people.
Yes. That's very honest of you. I heard a rumor. I don't know if we're supposed to say this or not, but I think we're allowed to. It doesn't matter anyway. That they issue something like 900 review codes per port game that comes out, which just seems like quite a lot to me.
I would believe it. I follow a person called Indie Gamer Chick, and she did this. She had this wonderful, wonderful system, and it would appeal to people that are basically didn't have the money to buy games like us. Like I'm lucky enough to have disposable income. Be like, well, I want that game, I'm gonna buy it. And the way it worked was she would have what's called the Indie Select, and she would give out code after code after code. She would have hundreds of codes for like a Ratalaika game. And all you had to do was play the game and review it. You had to cash in right away. You had to review the game within a couple of days, and you had to make something on Twitter and to let everybody know what you thought about the game. And the point was to get these small studios more media. And Ratalaika was a big player of that one. They gave out a lot of codes. So no, it doesn't surprise me that they would give out 900 codes. No,
look, I found that fascinating. It's just good to see someone playing the game for the game. I mean, it must disgust you that most of the people that's very liberal. Most of the trophy whores that play these games play about 2 minutes of them. So they really have no idea what's going on. And the funny thing, Kalai, I'm told, is they play it like 6 times to get the trophies. It's just insane. I mean, I don't understand it at all, but it is what it is. Now, this is interesting. Persona 5, you've played it like fractionally longer than me by maybe half an hour. So this was a while ago. I hope you don't mind me drawing this up.
No, I love Persona.
Yes. Well, see, this is what I get. Like, you seem to have a similar problem to me. You like to play a lot of games, but you don't get very far. Like, you just stop.
I know. That's what the backlog beatdown is helping me with. Because what happens is a new game comes out and I want to buy it. Yes. I actually still have games that aren't even opened yet. Literally, They're still sealed.
Yes, I like that you have Darksiders Genesis on this PlayStation profile as well, unstarted. It's fantastic.
No, I actually started. It's really hard to get. I'm actually into chapter 3. I actually really like the game.
Yes, yeah.
Funny story about that game. I've never played a Darksiders game in my life. So I kind of like this one. It almost has a Diablo-like feel, which a lot of people don't like.
The plus on this game is that it's isometric as well, unlike the other ones, so it does play quite differently. I'm enjoying it as well. Now that you mention it, I can see the trophy percentages, they're skewed to the overall game.
Yeah, it is really skewed, and there's a funny story about that game too. So I would never have bought this game because I've never played a Darksiders Genesis. Roberto, who works with many people, many companies, actually asked the developer for 3 codes. And one day he popped into our chat and he goes, "Oh, by the way, I got us all copies of Darksider." I'm like, "Okay." So that's actually I'm reviewing that.
Okay.
It's my review copy.
Obviously. So it's a long-term review. I like it. That's right. You know what? I've played a little bit. Like, we'll sidebar here, listeners, but you'll enjoy it or you won't. That's just how it is. And I played a little bit of this Darksiders. I feel maybe I'm a little bit further than you, perhaps, but not far. And my overall take was that this would be really fun in co-op. Obviously, you can play it in online co-op. Now, we have a mutual friend that is a bit obsessed with this series. He likes to buy the trophies, and I thought this could be a good game for us to play together or play some of it together. Here, of course, I'm talking about the world famous PlayStation rep, as you alluded to earlier with the VR there, this tricky Mick here. And I thought this would be a good thing to do, and I mentioned it a while ago, and then he's like, "Oh, I sold my copy because I'm buying the digital copy," and I was like, I don't. That's a lot of information. Too much. I don't care.
Did you follow the backlog beatdown that he was talking about?
There's a lot of things said in that thread, so I usually just gloss over it, and I usually just look at what Seagull's played for the week to see the latest offerings of spam. To be honest, but
well, he wanted to not get the -1 for buying the game twice.
Yes. Yeah. Well, he has a lot of angles going on, doesn't he? So
he does, and I got a free copy from the developer, which I don't know if he's figured out yet, even though we've talked about it on my podcast and now on your podcast.
Well, I don't think he listens
to
Brothers. So you'll be safe. But anyway, I thought this would be good for you to play perhaps with him as well if you want to play. But then the other day I'm playing Division 2, and we know that he lives in Division 2. You can't go into that game without seeing him. He's there. He's an institution. I think they built a statue of him in the game or something. He's there so much. And I'm messing around in this New York expansion. Look, it's, to be honest, for a low-skilled gamer, it's not easy if you're trying to play by yourself. So I leave the open matchmaking open, hoping that someone will indulge me for 5 or 10 minutes till they realize I don't know what I'm doing, and then move on, and at least I can get a bit further. And anyway, he's a god in this game, and anyway, there's a message comes in. "Oh, would you like to play a little bit?" I was like, wow, it's not often that a god taps you on the shoulders, and offers to show you a bit of the game. And I thought, this is a big moment, Kalai. It's a big moment for me, so I got a bit nervous, sweaty hands, had to wipe them all down. I was ready to go, though, first mission, we're going to get through it finally, after a few fails. And so anyway, he sends the party invite. He's in my game, I see him there. I go to join the party chat. As soon as I get in, he's gone. He's gone, Kalai. He had to go and play with his more superior friends. And he just left me there in the game by myself. Now, I don't know how you feel about that, but that was pretty rough, I think, to leave a very unskilled player in that situation. I don't know. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but now I'm thinking, well, what's he going to do in Darksiders? Is he just going to let me load into the game and then he'll be gone again? And look, I know his time it's very powerful. I mean, he's got to look after it. There's a lot of demands from the PlayStation community, but it left me a sad little pile in the corner, Kalai. It was very upsetting.
I would never do that to you.
No, well, you haven't seen me play the Division 2. He has. So, I sort of understand, why he did it as well.
No, here's my thought, and I'm going to put this out to your listeners. I don't care how bad you are. I just want to have fun. Because there's games I'm terrible at, and you're never going to learn if you don't have somebody that's going to teach you or be patient with you. And you can get some very bad experiences if you don't have somebody that's patient. Like, you don't want to come into a game and be like, "No, you're doing that wrong. You got to do it this way. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to learn." You know what I mean? And I've been overwhelmed like that. So I would never do that to somebody else.
No. Well, I have, in his defense, I found this in Final Fantasy 14 as well, because, look, it is an MMO, but predominantly it plays, as a single player game, except for sections, the dungeons, and the raids. And of course, Division 2 is always online, so you're potentially always playing with other people in the missions, if you invite them in or whatever. But, and I think maybe we're similar in a way here, Kalai, but, I'm often in the middle of a mission, say in Division or a dungeon, and I notice that my drink is it's emptied itself somehow. And so I need to refresh it. Now, I'll just stop in the middle of the mission and I'll go and do that. And I found that other people don't like that, that you just stop for like a couple of minutes or whatever. So I can understand.
Well, here's the important question. I gotta ask you this now. You say that your drink is empty. What are we talking about? Are we talking about water? Or, are we talking about like beer?
Oh, look, before 12 o'clock, it's water. I mean, after that, it may be a nice glass of wine or 3.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then that's very important. I would understand you if you just left.
Well, many people don't. Yeah, So anyway, that we're detracting a little bit. So like that's good. That is probably the most eclectic bunch of games we've had across all the systems. So I do appreciate that. So listeners, let's have a look at what I can offer up today. So why don't we do something different, listeners? Why don't we start off with a little bit of Xbox love? I know, I'm shocked as well, but look, I finally managed to turn on the system, and after numerous updates and various other shenanigans, it was ready to go. So now, look, this is exciting for me, but again, perhaps not for you. I am approaching the 10K gamer score, which, look, I suppose everybody and their dog already has at least that, but for me, that's very exciting. I think I'm like 9,600 and something. So look, it's very, very close. Obviously, off the back of a couple of rat specials and things, but also off some good stuff here. And I'm going to start off. Look, I'll start off with a spam game. Why not? Look, if you're an achievement whore, you're probably well versed in this game already. And this is the Tracks game. Now, this is available on Game Pass, so free with the subscription. This is a super chilled, relaxing toy wooden train game, if you like. Basically, you think back to when you were 5 or 6 and you had this little wooden push train set where you lay the tracks or whatever else. And look, there's various different rooms that you can play, and you can set the tracks however you like. And then you zoom down into a first-person view and control the train. It's got a whistle. Look, it's got everything you could possibly want if your brain just needs, if your brain is screaming to escape the sort of chaos around the world at the moment. Something like this is delightful. Particularly lovely is a Christmas level where you can set the track and go round and round the Christmas tree. So ultra relaxing. I'm really enjoying that. I haven't quite completed it yet, but like all Xbox games, it does have 1,000 gamer score. I'm pretty sure it can be done in like 30 to 40 minutes if that so interests you with a guide. So, of course, the big reason for turning on the Xbox was the release last week of Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Now, the first one was it was such a beautiful but tragically sad as well game. So I have been anticipating this, and to me, this almost feels like the start of the next generation or something. Obviously, playing it on the X, is amazing, as you would expect in 4K, but it just has that little something. Look, it's not without its flaws. I think, like Moon Studios, it's fantastic. The graphics are beautiful, the gameplay is beautiful. They've added a lot more attack in this game than I remember in the previous title, but I can roll with that. It's not a problem. It is a Metroidvania, but it has nothing on Mega Man here, obviously. Look, I don't know how to describe it. It's fairly clear on where you need to go. There's a lot of breakable walls, I suppose we could sort of call them, but once you get that around your head that almost every obstacle can be broken, it does open it up a little bit. Like all Metroidvanias, I'm finding the map a little bit confusing, but look, that aside, it's wonderful, like a non-verbal story, I think, where you just feel the emotions. The colors in the game are fantastic. They're dark, they're the purples, the blues. It's just wonderful. And the environments are really fleshed out. There's a lot going on the screen. Now, one of my problems, or my biggest problem at this stage with the game, now I understand it is in the process of being patched, or has already been patched at least once now, so I think, this will obviously improve with time, but I'm noticing a very slight delay or stall, if you like, with the graphics. So you'll be running along, and then every now and then it's not a glitch or whatever, it's not a drop in frames, it's almost just like the characters a little bit behind on the background or something. And it doesn't sound major, but it's really off-putting. It doesn't throw out your jumps or your attacks or anything, but it's very difficult to sort of, I don't know, it's very, very off-putting. But look, I'm sure they'll fix that. Also, I have a feeling that may not be on all the systems. I'm playing it on the X on a 4K TV, so perhaps there's some sort of latency or lag there that they're just addressing. But look, that aside, it's really beautiful. Looking forward to spending more time on it. It's even got a quest system now, so it's much more built out than the first game. Now, the predominant reason that I went back to the Xbox a few weeks ago, although I didn't talk about it, was that I've been driven by this Remedies control, which I found fantastic, but as I was playing it, I was like, how does the studio even get this sort of far out? How do they get to this point? I would love to know. And I'd never played Quantum Break, again, another game on Game Pass. And I'm like, finish Control or whatever else. I picked up the JP stack. I want to do it again. But I would like to do it maybe in order so I can see how the game went. So I thought I'll just go back to Quantum Break. That's far enough back. And I started it, and I can definitely see how they got to Control. Yeah, a lot of the backgrounds, the environments, the chairs upside down, all this sort of, weirdness or whatever, or altered events as they later became in Control. I can see where it's all coming from. So I probably put like a good 3 to 4 hours into that game. And then I thought, well, maybe I should go right back to Alan Wake, because, everyone I've talked to is like, oh, it's amazing. CJ, you've got to play this. Amazing. And look, I understand, it's old. It's 360 old. So I sort of put it off. And then, of course, our Patreon supporter Levi has been pushing this game. I know he played it a month or so ago, and he just loved it. He played it in a short space of time, and he raved about it. So I was like, well, now seems like the right time to do it. So I'd never actually played a backwards compatible game on the X yet, which, in itself is amazing, although with a 9,000 gamer score, it's not surprising. So I didn't really know what to expect. And, if you're in a similar position to me and you don't know how all this works, obviously it's very easy. Again, this was on Game Pass, you just go in and download it. But I was amazed at how good the game looks. So I don't have any reference point for the original, how it looked, but I'm assuming it's highly up-resed here, and it plays fantastic. It would look at home on the PS4 Pro, but it's no surprise either, I suppose. And look, I didn't know what to expect, because it's definitely not Control level of fucked up by any stretch. In fact, when you look at it to something like that, you can see how far they've evolved, I suppose. It's sort of almost, it's a believable story to a degree. What I really like about this game, and look, if you've played it, you'll be just like, yeah, I know. What I really like is this, as I was playing, I was like, this is the perfect fusion of like a Telltale, or, let's forget Telltale. No, not Telltale. No. A perfect sort of fusion of a Life is Strange, Don't Nod style game with action as well. So, I know a lot of people, played Life is Strange 2 and they're like, oh, so boring. If I want to watch a movie, I turn on the TV, all this sort of stuff. So I understand that side, despite the fact that I quite liked it, but I can understand that you would want more gameplay. And this Alan Wake, it seems to deliver both. So I'm sort of about halfway through. Again, this is not a long game. I think around 8 hours or something to completion. Maybe longer if you're going for the 1000G, but for me that won't be on the cards, I don't think. So about 8 hours or whatever else, and it does play like this. So you're a rider, you're arriving at this sort of spooky. It is spooky, destination. I won't go into it. It's a small country town on a river or whatever else. In the mountains. It's fantastically dark, mist in the air, you got all this sort of stuff. And they go to stay on this island with his wife. And, he's a very successful rider. Everybody in the town, even though it's, small town, Hickville, they know who he is or whatever, but he's trying to escape that because he's sort of suffering, the great artistic writer's block, if you like, the burden of success, I suppose, of a successful writer. Look, I wouldn't know. It's very modeled on Stephen King. It even starts with a Stephen King quote. So it's leaning heavily into that trope or whatever, but it does it well. Now, admittedly, the whole first section, there's very little gameplay. You're just walking around or whatever, but it's setting it up. And then when the gameplay sort of starts, and look, I'm not going to spoil it or anything, so if you haven't played it, you don't have to worry. But these apparitions, if you like ghost-like figures or whatever that may or may not be in his mind, they start to come and they attack, and it does create a great tension. Like I've always found the Resident Evil, it's a bit much for me. It's a bit intense, knowing they're behind me, but this seems to be the right balance for me. Yes, it's very intense, and sometimes you're running from them and you can feel them, but it's enough gameplay for me that I'm feeling like I'm playing the game. I'm not passive in any way, but I'm also getting that passive story experience when those sort of creatures are not around, if you like. So for me, it's a really great balance, and it's really refreshing to play like a deep story. I was quite surprised. Like, I mean, there's a lot of depth and value here. Like, I'm reading the notes that I find, which are the manuscript or whatever of the book that he supposedly is written or is writing. He's blanked out and lost time. It's as far into the story as we'll go. But that, and then the beautiful setting as well, which again it comes back to this up-res nature. So it's made me think I definitely need to look more into this, backwards compatible and sort of stuff. And I suppose in a way, it also makes me excited, for the PS5. This is supposedly a feature, with hopefully with some up-resing. I know the Xbox team have done a lot of work in this area, and maybe some of these games that I never played on PS3 that I will, or even PS2. My goodness, and that's enough of that on the PS5. So look, if you played Control and you're like me, that's your first Remedy game because you're a bit of a PlayStation gamer or whatever, I definitely recommend. Don't even just go back to Quantum Break. Go back to Alan Wake first, and you'll see how that studio has evolved, and it's very exciting for me. And because it's a bite-sized sort of chunk, like I don't want to oversell this a little bit, but we watched the Del Toro movie the other day, the stories you tell in the dark or whatever, scary stories to tell in the dark, something like this. And look, that was fantastic. It had that Stephen King-esque, I suppose, feel, although I think, Del Toro even on another level. And then I get the feeling with this game as well. It's just something special. So buy an Xbox, give it a try. Why don't you? But look, you're like, I've had enough Xbox. Give me something PlayStation. So I can. I got a fantastic carry in the Division 2, the Gangs of New York, from our friend Sir Tricky Mick. It was a fantastic experience, as I alluded to earlier. Playing with someone that knows the game so well is amazing, and I sort of did some of the missions, the final missions, just with randoms or whatever, because the way the level scaling works in that game, if you haven't played it, is you're bumped up to the highest person in the group. So the problem is it bumps you up, but it doesn't necessarily bump up your damage. So you earn XP a lot quicker, which is awesome if you're trying to get the level 40 trophy to unlock the last mission. But on the flip side, you're pretty much one hit killed, and you do almost no damage when you stand there just repeatedly firing at them. But you can live with that. It's still fun. It's a carry, but it's still fun. So we did that. Then he bumped me up to level 40, which was awesome. But then what was really special was I was like, oh, that's probably enough of this game for me. And then he showed me with this amazing share play feature. It's a miracle that it works. It worked in Australia, but just so that I could see how all this end game on the end game, I suppose, works, and this idea of, he calls it the Pokedex of weapons, where you're basically destroying weapons to build percentages on other weapons, and to up the skills now. So in effect, it's adding so many more hours to the game and give you an edge, I suppose. I mean, that would be the most interesting thing to me, because the leveling starts again on this shadow system or something. He was substantially high, 50 or something, and the difference between me at a level 40 and him at this new level 50 was massive in the damage he could do compared to me. So there's obviously a lot of value. But then the other thing he showed me was this Seasons, which is almost in effect a battle pass, if you like, where now you can play, and as you reach these levels through XP, you'll unlock cosmetic items, which don't benefit you, in the game other than the way you look, but that's cool. And then there's also going to be, he was saying, you could see down the bottom, a second tier, if you like, which will be other items, again cosmetic or whatever else, and you will pay for a $10 fee or something for a few months of this, and they're going to drop in events and stuff. So it's a fantastic story for Ubisoft, and I know a lot of people picked this game up recently at $3, and I know this paid expansion here, the Gangs of New York. It's not cheap, but it will be in time. You can wait. I mean, if you're just starting now, you've probably got 100 hours before you hit this point anyway. Depending on maybe 500 before you hit this point, depending on how deeply you go. So it's exciting to see that they've really built a model and they're building on it. And I was excited to see that there was so much more to that than I thought. Obviously, trophy-wise, look, I don't know that you need to do all that. There are 2 trophies tied up, I think, in that end game sort of stuff. But again, if you're in a group or whatever, it's not going to take you that long. You wouldn't have to necessarily level all those ways up, but it definitely adds value, which is something that I was surprised with. So next up, One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows. So I know I've already talked about this a little bit in the past. So I'm deep in the midsection of the game now. Look, I'm still enjoying it. I think the writing is really good. I know I sort of said last time that maybe this wasn't the strongest in this genre if you're a fan of it. But look, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, if you like to read, there's a lot of text there. The only voice parts are the main story parts. All the subquests are text-based. And it's funny too. Like, it's got that real good Japanese humor to it. I mean, some of these superheroes are just insane. It's fantastic, and their backstories. One of the things I've noticed is when you're running around the hub world, you'll get a quest marker or a marker where one of the characters are, and you'll run there, and the marker will be there, but the character won't be, and it takes a second or two for them to pop in. So if you're playing this game, or you're going to play this game, and that happens, don't panic. They are there. You just have to wait couple of seconds sometimes for them to animate in. I don't know what's going on with that. The other thing I found is that the tutorials in this game aren't amazing, and it took me ages. Now I'm in chapter 5 and only just found out how to do the super killer move, which is involved with maxing the timer on the top left and then pushing the R button in, the R stick, which again, it may have said somewhere, but I don't think it did. So there's a few leaps of logic or whatever, but the thing that I'd like to bring up in this game, just carrying on with that division, the end game, is that they've now started the tournament again, which aren't associated with trophies. Ugh, who cares? It's too much, too many games. I don't have time for tournaments and fun. But if you do, because most of this game is single player, you're not in co-op or you're not in versus mode. This is that. There's a whole tier. They've done structures there in the tournaments. Progressive over a week, and there'll be rounds and things, and it's all based on tickets as well, and there's a whole lot of cosmetic items that are only available in there, which I think is fantastic. So there's, again, not tied to trophies, but there's a ton of value in this game, providing, I suppose, you like the core mechanics. And again, it is very button mashy. So if you're looking for an ultra skilled fighter, I don't think this is for you, but if you like that sort of button mashiness, then you're probably going to get a lot of value out of this game, I think. I'm looking forward to getting into the My Heroes 1 Justice 2, obviously in the same style. It came in, but there's just been no time. So, it is what it is. Couple of short things that I can throw at you. This Hidden Through Time. This is a really beautiful gem of a game, I think. I'm trying to think, there's point and clicks, and I suppose technically this is a point and click, although there's no story here or whatever. But you're just pointing and then you're clicking. That's it. But it's like a Where's Wally, if you're like, you've got to find like 4 or 5, sometimes a few more items within a picture, and of course the picture can be moving, the people can be moving or whatever. Some of the things are really precise and they're very small. And there's a lot going on, so it can be hard to find. My understanding is there is now a video guide, so that would make that section of the game, in effect, the story mode, very easy. Then the only other trophies are the online, playing user-created maps. You have to play 100. So the way the list works is you'd also be working on finding the objectives. You've got to find 5, 10, 20, 100 or whatever. So you'd be doing that as you're doing the maps. There, of course, the trophy and achievement hunters have got in there. It seems to be cross-play on this, so you can actually get maps that Xbox players have created or PlayStation. So if you're looking for the easiest route, you could just type in the search easy or easy trophies or achievos, and they'll come up with a lot. When I played yesterday, there weren't 100 yet, but there were probably a good 40. So I imagine in the next couple of weeks there'll be more than 100 that can be done in a few seconds. The load, which is very quick, will probably take longer. Of course, if you want to do it legit, they're all freestanding maps. I mean, you're just finding these things. So that's a lovely game. I'm sure that'll turn into spam, as I said, with a guide. I'm not sure. Maybe you could do that in 5 hours, even if you just stab through the online as well. And then look, I'm not going to touch Arc of Alchemist because I'm getting close to the end, but it's really disappointed me. It's just turned into a grind fest, and I think, and we talked about it a little bit, a few weeks ago, listeners. It's not that cheap. It's not that great for what it is either. And bare bones, it's fantastic. It's just a shame that it didn't cook a little bit more, which it sort of scares me because I did pick up another game that's sort of very similar to this, and I think it's going to be in the same style that I was actually going to move into after. But I don't know. I think I might have had enough for the time being. We shall see. And then, of course, that brings us finally to Death Stranding. So look, if anyone knows what the fuck is going on at this point, I'm approaching the end of Chapter 2, please feel free to tell me. Although I'm not really sure that anyone does. Maybe you're not supposed to at this point. The story is pretty obvious. I know where I'm heading in that sense, but I just don't understand all the stuff that's going on. But look, I'm having fun. I seem to be getting randomly attacked by BTs or whatever. I saw a whale jump past me before and drop all the packages, drop my load or whatever, and then have to run out and then try and get it later. And it's it's great. I spent 20 minutes racing down a river because I accidentally dropped one of the things you needed to build the bridge early on in Chapter 2. It's a mission objective. I dropped the metal in the water by mistake. I thought I could actually get across the lake and maybe couldn't figure out how to build the bridge. So I was like, maybe I need to get on the other side of the river thing to build it, but couldn't. It was too deep. So I lost all the packages. And then, of course, the one with the metal flew off right down the river. Took 20 minutes to chase it, get it, and back. So look, not the most fun, of course, but in true Kojima style, he repaid me with more bizarreness by just giving me like 4 trophies in a row when I turned that mission in. I don't even know what they were for. And then he did it again a bit later, like 20 minutes later, he gave me another 2 for, I don't even know what. I think I was pissing off a cliff with no hands at that point. So I have no idea how the trophies are working, although I assume I'm probably not going to get any more for a while now, saying he overloaded me there. But with that aside, it is really relaxing, except for when all shit breaks out and the BTs come out of the ground and God knows what's going on there. But for the rest of the time, it is really relaxing. I'm sure anyone that's platted this game or played it a lot would probably find this amusing, but I'm starting to run into a lot of signs. People are putting up like, a smiley face sign or don't piss here sign or piss here, it's everywhere. I don't care. All these different signs, go this way, go that way and stuff. And they're starting to, which is very helpful in the open world, but they're putting it in the hub areas at the very start of the hub. So they obviously want you to run past it to give them likes. Like, I'm not really sure what they're going to do with the likes, how that sort of works. Again, it's not explained, but, that's not important, obviously. You don't need to understand that. But look, if it helps them, I always run past it. But the funny thing is like, in the hub I'm up to now, there's probably like 40 of these signs. Like, you can't see anything except the signs, which is awesome. I don't know, maybe that's the point of it, but I don't know. Look, that is, it's cracking me up. So look, I do give everyone a like if that's your sign. Congratulations, you're valid as well. Thank you for putting it there. So that's quite a bit. I'm enjoying it. I'm sort of I'm not at the stage yet where we have to self quarantine, but I'm thinking if that were to happen, there's a high possibility I could maybe death strand myself over that 2 weeks or a month or however long that's going to go for. But at this stage, I'm happy to just keep chipping away at it like that. And then again, I thank the Patreon producer, Scottish Noob, for financially encouraging me to return to the game, I suppose. And I look forward to getting into Chapter 3 at some point, because this has been going on for a while, this second chapter. And of course, thank you for the hurry on the other day, sir, to get me back into the game. That was appreciated. So listeners, let us carry on to the topic today. So we're going to talk today, listeners, sort of MMOs. Well, look, I think this is an MMO, but perhaps I'm wrong. You can clarify in a moment. We're going to talk about the beast that is Monster Hunter World.
And not an MMO.
Well, look, it's just letters, I don't think we should get caught up on that. It goes forever. Multiple people play it. It's like a world. That's enough. So when I say Monster Hunter World, Kalai, what do you think?
I think monsters kill, kill, death, death.
Now, what is the attraction? Now, first off, this is part of a series or whatever. I mean, this is, the most prominent one in the West, though. Do you have a history with this series, or have you just started with this game?
I have a history. I started with Monster Hunter 4 on the 3DS. I am lucky enough to have one of the actual Monster Hunter 3DS systems with the logo on it, which is really cool. I play on Switch, and I also play on PC. I had the game for PlayStation, but I didn't get very far because I play on PC now.
You're going to guide us through this because my experience with this game is limited. But I mean, this is a massive game. I mean, we're talking like in the echelons here of like a Final Fantasy 14 or an MMO in size or whatever else.
No, it's actually not.
Okay, well, explain that to me because that's what I was going to ask you.
So in Monster Hunter, you're just literally beating a monster. You go out, you hunt a monster. That's it. There's no, you need to do this quest line, this quest line, this quest line, this quest line. Oh, you need to kill 30 cacti to get what you need. So anybody can jump in, which is why I like the game. There's definitely an endpoint. If you get through the story, which is about 30 hours of Monster Hunter Worlds, it's about 30 hours for Iceborne, you don't really have to play unless you want to. But when you have a really good group of friends, you get on there, and the next thing you know, the day's gone away because you're just fighting monsters. Because the hook of the game is to get better gear, you need monster parts. And those monster parts don't always drop, so you have to keep fighting the monster over and over again. So, you'll do your monster, then you'll help your friend do his monster, or you guys will do, like, a bigger monster together. Like, there's a KT is a really big monster. It takes about 16 people.
Okay. So let's wind it back a little bit because I want to get into that and all of that. It's quite interesting, but most of these games, and I don't care what you say, I found this to be the case, they're a bit overwhelming when you start. Now, this game is based in what they call the New World. Is that correct? Is that the right term?
Yes. And you're correct. It is overwhelming.
Yeah. So I'd like you to talk to that a little bit about your first couple of hours in this game, what to expect, how to navigate it, basically.
So the first couple of hours are pretty easy. Pretty much the first 30 hours, which is, of course, your storyline, I call that the tutorial. Those are all teaching you how to fight each of the monsters. It's teaching you, it's giving you the help you need. It's teaching you about collecting items to make your potions and getting everything set up so you can go out. Because you want to get through the tutorial. Once the tutorial's over, you can pretty much fight whatever you want without whoever you want. Because for whatever reason in Monster Hunter Worlds, they make you go through a cutscene before anybody can get into your game, which is stupid.
Yes, that's very Kojima-esque. I like it.
Yes, but the game can be overwhelming. And it was overwhelming in Monster Hunter 4 for me. It was overwhelming in Monster Hunter on the Switch, which is the Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. It became not overwhelming for me in Worlds because people took the time to explain things to me and to help me understand. And when I started understanding how deep these games are, I could go back and play Generations Ultimate on the Switch and understand a lot better. So the key is to find someone or to read a lot of guides.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was going to ask, is it a physical person telling you or is it an NPC? But okay, yeah.
No, I actually had friends. I had friends that when I got in, they're like, well, do you want us to tell you how to play or do you want to learn on your own and ask questions? I was like, well, I want to learn on my own. Like, I don't want to be told how to play. They're like, okay. And I have a group of friends that play, and we have another guy that's like, oh, you have to have the best build. You have to max your DPS. And they were like, look, we're going to kick you off our Discord server unless you stop. We don't really care. We build what we want to build. And if I need help and I want to set, I can say, look, guys, this is what I want to do. They'll help me find a build that works for me.
So let's have a look at that then, because it's interesting that you say that, because one of the reasons I like Final Fantasy XIV is that it does get very in-depth in the builds of the characters, but the nature of the game in the first 10 to 15 hours, it doesn't throw you into very much like multiplayer with other people, even though, yes, you're in the world and everyone's there. A lot of the quests are individual, and it doesn't put you in a situation where it's obvious you don't know what you're doing, so it gives you a lot of time to learn. This game, I found, like, yes, it had that tutorial, and from memory, you had to fight a boss by yourself before it would let you in. But I found that time very short before you could play with other people. And I'd like you to maybe talk a little to that then with the builds at the start. Is it that relaxed, or are people like, this is the way you have to play, or...
It's very relaxed. Monster Hunter will probably, I have to say, has the best community of gamers I've ever played with. Literally. I can't even describe how awesome they are. I've played Monster Hunter Generations with Joe, and we had people that are level like 300 in Japanese that don't speak English that jump in and fight with us and help us, even though we're doing like 2 and 3 level star quests when they're like way above us. So it doesn't matter what you're playing. The whole point of Monster Hunter is to have fun. The builds really, really come into after you've beaten all the monsters, after you've done that storyline. Because when you're doing the storyline, you're just going to be, oh, look, that gear's better than what I have. I'm going to do that. When you get past that and you're doing tempered monsters, which are the harder versions of the monsters, you're going to want stuff that protects you from the fire that's going to happen from Lunestra, or the ice damage that's going to happen from this monster. We have one guy that does what's called the Wiggler build, that you eat mushrooms to heal yourself, and it heals everybody in your party.
Fantastic.
So it's actually very in-depth.
Yeah. Okay, that's yeah. See, that's interesting, because I think that for me is one of the biggest intimidating things in starting a game like this. But having said that, now there are 14. Now there may be more now, I don't know. But I think when it launched, there were 14 base weapon types, and you had to pick one. You have to pick one very early on with that. Now, what did you go with and why? And has it changed, I suppose, in time?
In the original Monster Hunter 4, I went with dual blades. And then when I went into Monster Hunter Worlds, I went with switch axe and learned I loved switch axe. So I'm actually playing switch axe on all systems. After learning the switch axe, I learned a little bit of the Kinsect blade, and I also learned the hunting horn.
Okay, so is it as simple as just moving between, or are you locked in?
Oh, you can change up your weapons. You can change up your gear all the time. In fact, the game actually has ways to like preset your gear. So when I go into my gear box, I could be like, oh, I want to play hunting horn. I'm going to put on all my hunting horn with a click of a button, or all my Kinsect gear, because all the gear's different.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you've basically described almost like a like a shooter-looter type game, if you like, except a beater-looter, I suppose, where it's just the game loop is literally you go out, you bash the monster to death, you get the drop or you don't, hopefully you do, you come back and you change your gear. That's the core cycle then of the game?
That's the absolute core cycle of the game. And what makes the game amazing is when you play with friends and you guys have fun. I can't even describe the fun we have of playing the game. And I don't know if you know this, but since you're a Final Fantasy XIV player, do you know we had a crossover event?
I did. In fact, there've been quite a few crossover events. I don't know what it entailed though.
We had to fight the behemoth with Monster Hunter weapons.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
So I read that they do quite a few. Like I actually read up on that, the 14 one, but they also did an Assassin's Creed one. They've done a Witcher one as well. So this is the characters coming in the game. Does this then give special drops over a period of time? Is that the other thing associated?
For the Final Fantasy XIV one, I only beat him once because he's really hard. I actually had to play. I played Kinsect Blade, and when you jump on his back with the Kinsect, because the Kinsect can launch you, you can ride the monster for a short period of time. When your stamina runs out, you're off the monster. So the way my group did it is I ran Kinsect Blade, I got on the monster, and as my when my stamina got low enough, my friend healed my stamina back up. Because while he is being ridden, he doesn't do any of his attacks because he's so busy trying to get you off, and at that point, everybody else can run in and hit the monster.
So we've alluded to this a little bit, but I want to ask you a little bit about this as well then. You know, obviously it's a multiplayer game. What happens if you want to play it by yourself? Is that even an option or not?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, every Tuesday night when I record, my husband goes down and plays it by himself because he can't actually talk to people, because if he does, he'll be on my recording, probably cursing a lot.
So therefore, you could technically beat the game by yourself, or is that not possible?
No, you can definitely beat the game by yourself, but this game isn't meant to be beaten by yourself. This game isn't a solo game that's meant to be like, oh, hey, I'm going to play this game and get all the trophies. What makes this game amazing is the community.
what I find interesting, though, is when you load into this game, now, again, this may have changed because I played it at launch, and briefly, is it puts you into a room of, I'm going to say 16, but it may well be more than that. Is that correct? Players?
Yes, 16 players, yep.
So I find this interesting because, Final Fantasy 14 did this for a long time as well with their, obviously, with their different servers, and you'd play on different worlds or whatever. And one of the problems with this, because that game became so diverse, and I understand this would be as well with the number of different quests and things, that you could potentially have massive queuing times if you were looking for certain people to do certain things, providing you didn't know them, as your friends list. So you just have to wait. And so one of the things they did was ended up creating in the recent, the last year, they've created like almost a cross world system, if you like, where you can actually now visit other servers, even though you're paying to be on a specific server. It also means for things like dungeons, you can come together. It will now open the player pool across. But for this Monster Hunter, you're sort of stuck with the people in that room, aren't you? It's not pulling across the whole player base. Is that correct?
Yes and no. You are stuck with those people, but it's pulling from the whole player base. I've been in rooms with people who don't speak English, who speak Japanese, because that's what we're in. So
along that line, then, if you're playing by yourself, you don't have a group like you say you have here, and you're put out a call for help, it is to do a quest, I suppose, or whatever else. Are there these issues of this sort of loading, or waiting around, or you don't find that?
No, I don't find that at all. People will jump in. We've actually done we've used the system to get people into the game, and we try to get there fast enough so people don't fill up our spots. I've actually had people fill up our spots, and we've had to disband because we were trying to do specific events with all 4 of our friends. So they allow you to make a room. They allow you to give a password. So if I take a quest, I can put a password on it, so only my friends can jump in.
That's fantastic. I like that. Yeah. So, one of the things I hear often about these sort of games that have raids or dungeons or, a monster hunt like this in this situation is, well, CG, that's all well and good, but, I can't dictate an hour perhaps to do this because I might get stopped by life or something. How long do these sort of quests take?
You're allotted an hour, depending on the quest. I usually do it in about 20 minutes. There have been times, because behind the scenes, I'm a little on the lazy side when it comes to the weekends. I like to play my games. So I actually have a delivery service for my groceries. There's been times where my husband's had to get the delivery and he'll hide in a corner and I'll be running around being like, oh my God, you're going to die. I'm saving you.
That's a communal effort. I like it.
Yeah.
That's good. Now, then Iceborne comes. Now, are you familiar with this as well, or? I beat
that one already.
Oh, you're a master of it. So now, a new player coming in, I assume you would recommend they start with the first Monster Hunter world?
You have no choice. You have to go through the main storyline before you get to Iceborne. Iceborne is, assumes you've beaten the first game.
Okay, well, having said that, I believe you get a buff, though, don't you, if you have the Iceborne? Do you get an automatic level to a certain level, or is that not the case?
You don't get an automatic level. What you get is some really good armor that makes the fights really easy. Because I actually had a friend who got the Iceborne, and he wound up running through the entire game in a week before he got to Iceborne to join us.
Okay, so it would be almost advantageous then to get the Iceborne and start and do it that way. So look, I have to ask, is it just more of the same?
It is, but it's more of the monsters that are added, because the thing with Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate on the Switch is there's a lot more monsters. That's the one drawback to Monster Hunter Worlds. There's not a lot of monsters. And we like variety. We like different things. And they added new monsters that have never been seen in any Monster Hunter, which was kind of really cool.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm getting a feel for this now. Now, look, we have to address the elephant in the room because, I know this is not an elephant for you, but this is for many gamers that would listen to this show. And this is the trophy and the achievement requirements here. Now, my understanding is these requirements are based on RNG. This is why this platinum and, a gamer score completion can take so long. And this is all tied up in these crowns. Now, I don't understand what these are. Would you be able to elaborate on this?
Yes, crowns are their version of how big or how small a monster is. So you gotta beat the monster at its biggest crown and its smallest crown. And you have to keep playing the monster until you hit the achievement. That's what makes the platinum so hard.
On the scale of 0 to highly bullshit, what do you think about that as an achievement and a trophy?
I mean, it's hard for me to say because I'm not a trophy hunter. I'll put it to you this way. I put 250 hours into the game alone on PC, and I still haven't gotten all the achievements.
So it's on the highly bullshit end. I thought that may be the case. So it's totally RNG as well, isn't it? So you could have another 1,000 hours potentially to get that.
Yes, potentially. But I also wasn't looking for them because I'm like, I'm not doing that. So what a lot of my friends do is they'll jump in and they'll wait for somebody to SOS and jump into their quest and help them. And I've done that. I've jumped into people who are low level and I've helped them beat monsters because I could.
And what, that just improves the chances, or do they know that the monster will be there with the crown?
No, they have no idea. It's totally random.
Okay, it's totally random. Okay, that's cool. So one of the things I heard about this game is, that when it does suck people in, and it really sucks them in, the adrenaline of the big boss fight, and you've alluded to it already today. It's like nothing else. It is the selling point of this game when it's all going on. Do you feel that tension, Kalai? Do you feel that excitement when it's all going down?
Yes, actually, it's actually pretty funny because me and my husband, we both get verbal. My husband like never talks, but when he's playing Monster Hunter, you could hear him say like, "Oh my god, that's bullshit! I had that shot," or "Oh, we're mounted." Like mounted's a lot, so everybody knows not to knock you off or to do something stupid like flash the monster. So it really does get intense.
Yeah. Okay. I can. Yeah. No. I can. I can imagine. Now, what happens when you wipe? Do you have to start the whole quest again, or?
You have 3 feints. After 3 feints, you have to start the quest again.
And is that? I mean, I imagine that is used sometimes in some of these tougher fights.
Yes, the Witcher fight was really difficult. I was lucky enough to get it done the first time around because it's a very difficult fight. My husband has not completed it yet. He didn't wipe on the fight, but he hit the timer. So if you hit the timer, you're also evicted from the quest. And I think I had 30 seconds left out of an hour timer to beat the Witcher one, and I did it with 30 seconds left.
I love when moments like that happen because, like, for you, you'd be like, this is important to win because otherwise I'm going to have to do it again.
Yes.
But for me, it'd be like, if this doesn't happen, it's never going to happen. So it adds that extra level of, 29 seconds or we're never seeing this thing again. Trust me. Maybe not the controller either as it flies out the room. But, this is the nature of it. So now, Kalai, I'm coming to you, look, I'm thinking about jumping into this game. I'm thinking about starting. Give me some tips that I need to know that is going to make this an enjoyable experience from the beginning.
So try different weapons. Find a weapon that you like. That's like the main thing. This isn't like an MMO where you're like, oh, because I played World of Warcraft, I don't know if you did, where it was like, oh, I want to be a priest. Well, if you're a priest, you have to be a healer. Well, I don't want to be a healer. Well, tough, you have to be a healer. Or if you're a rogue, you have to play this build. You don't have to play anything you don't want to play in Monster Hunter. You have to find a weapon that is fun to you. Me personally, I like hand-to-hand. I want to be up in that monster's face, smashing him in the face with a damn sword. My husband, he's a bow kind of guy. He doesn't like having to worry about a whetstone and making sure his blade's sharp. He's going to sit back and fire. So, that's like the biggest thing. Do the tutorials. They're very good at teaching you the different weapons. Because one thing about the game is you can get in and you can button mash, which is what I started with. I like to button mash, I'll admit that. But there are some really interesting moves that if you can learn them, it will make you a better player. Gathering sucks, but it has to be done. Eventually, you'll open up the cook and their garden. Your garden, you'll be able to cultivate all the things that you would have to collect and normally you'd have to run around the map trying to get. So they kind of took out the whole gathering thing, which I like because I hated gathering from, again, World of Warcraft. I don't know if that's a thing in Final Fantasy XIV.
It can be, yes.
Yes. In Monster Hunter, my garden makes it, and I have 4 slots, and then I just make a whole bunch of potions. So find people that want to play with you. Find a steady group. That's always fun. If people want to start and they want to play with me, I play on PC. I mean, I have it on PlayStation. I'll play with you on PlayStation, but I really like my character who's decked out on PC.
And there's no crossplay, is there, between PC and PS4?
No, because PS4.
Yes, that's enough said. Really, yeah. Okay, that's good. And Look, I want to ask you too, because you've played on both the PC and the PS4. I always find this interesting because in Final Fantasy XIV, the majority of players are on PC. It is crossplay. Thank you, Sony. One of the most interesting things is if they find out you're on PS4, they're sort of like, oh, what are you doing? It's ridiculous. This is a PC game. And, there are certain reasons for that. Obviously, some of the shortcuts and things like that would be a lot easier. Managing some of the UI would be easier. But for the most part, that game does a reasonable job with its UI for the console. How about for Monster Hunter? Do you notice that that stuff is easier on the PC compared to the PS4, or does it really not matter?
It doesn't matter because, funny story, when I play on PC, I play with an Xbox controller. I don't play mouse and keyboard. So it doesn't make a difference. I just have a big player base on PC. Plus, I tend to like Discord over any other chat program.
Okay, that's good. So with that inner basis too, we didn't touch on that today, but that's something that always interests me in these games. You're in a chat when you do these quests as well?
Yes. I have a server. And my server is very fun. The one major rule is you're not allowed to talk about any current events. We're here to have fun. Let's have fun.
I like that. Well, look, I think you've done a good service. Is there anything else you'd like to throw out about Monster Hunter for our audience?
Just be patient with it, because once you understand it, it is probably one of the best games out there. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Again, I've played this game for years now, and I told you I could say with certainty 99.99999% of the people that I meet love to help people who don't understand the game. Love to teach you. Love to help you. Do you need a monster hunt? We'll help you.
It's so true, because like I think back to Final. I'm just keep using that as the analogy because it's the only game that I've played that has substantial online community. 14, and it's just, I mean, they have the free companies there, and yes, they're based on Discord as well. And it is, I mean, as you say, some of these people have been playing these games for years in different iterations and things, and they're so knowledgeable, and they're so happy to give with their time as well, I find. I mean, I imagine it's the same in Monster Hunter. If you had a bad experience, it would turn you off the game completely, but there just seems to be so many good experiences waiting with people that it's not an excuse not to try, at least.
I found, though, with the Monster Hunter community, it's been better than even the MMO community. Because I'm assuming with Final Fantasy, like whatever character you play, there's a specific build that you should be playing. Doesn't matter what you want to play, there's a specific build.
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things with that game is you pick up stones, if you like, or souls that can actually change your character. So rather than, I mean, you can definitely start a new character, but you can acquire through quest lines, and so you can change your character if you like, and you can move between. So that does alleviate some of that. But I found the funny thing I found with Final Fantasy XIV is that I came in at a time when a lot of people had already played it, so it was very quiet early on, and I think I got a great experience because as I moved through the expansions and I caught up to where the player base was, I started to meet the more skilled players. There weren't many, obviously, in the early stages of the game anymore because all the rewards, like with all these games, are tied up in the latter end or the end game content. But being on the ground this time for when Shadowbringers, the new expansion, dropped, I found it very interesting because even though I'd put a lot of hours, like I think 700 or 800 hours into the game, there's a lot of stuff I don't know because I play it casually, 800 hours casually, yeah. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't know. And I found in that new expansion, playing with the players that are playing every day that are really on top of their game, there was a little bit of aggression in some of the dungeons in that you should know this stuff or you should know that. And it's the first time I've ever actually watched videos on how to do bosses, only because, and look, I don't care what people write in the chat, ignore it, but only because there were some, and I understand, when you're running these dungeons like 20 times in a row, for a certain gear drop, it's annoying when, Mr. Tank doesn't know what he's doing. He's standing in the corner looking out over the window or something, in the wrong spot. So, look, I understand that.
Yeah, see, Monster Hunter doesn't have that. I've been at a convention with Monster Hunter 4, and me and my husband were taking a break, and I was like, oh, let's play some Monster Hunter, because we were just sitting on some couches. And he's like, that's a good idea. And a random guy was like, are you playing Monster Hunter? I'm like, yeah. He's like, can I play with you? I'm like, sure, but what level are you? He's like, oh, I'm master rank 3 or whatever. I'm like, we're like level 2. He's like, that's all right. I'm like, well, we don't know much about the game. He's like, that's all right, I'll teach you. And literally, he sat down to teach me. He didn't care that he was fighting a low-level monster with 2 people who had no idea he was doing. And literally, that's what you get with Monster Hunter. You get people who love to play the game and they want you to love to play the game, and they're not going to spoil that experience. They're not going to tell you, oh, you're doing it wrong. Oh, you wiped. Okay, let's get back up and see what we can do again. We learned that the monster does this attack, so this is when we have to move.
I mean, I don't by any means want to rubbish, the community behind 14 at all, but I think the way that, and I mean, it's a topic for another day, but I also think MMOs that are story-based, they perhaps create this a little bit as well because, they have multiple currencies running and, you need these certain drops. Sometimes you need to do it in a certain amount of time as well, and there's a lot going on there, so I do understand where the frustrations can come in. And look, to be honest, even though you've sung the praises so highly of Monster Hunter, I would be surprised if in the end level of Iceborne, maybe in some of these end level, if these people are running the thing the same time, there isn't maybe a little frustration sometimes, because that's the nature of people. No. Oh, okay.
No, we're not. We're never frustrated at the people. I'm telling you, it's the best community ever. You're never frustrated at the people.
You stupid sword, work properly. I don't know. If you get in there within that whetstone's not there, it's like The Witcher all over again, isn't it? The stupid sword breaks, and I don't know. Maybe I'll take your word for it. So look, that's been fantastic, listeners. So look, I'm in full honesty. Look, I'm not quite ready to start my Monster Hunter world journey, but perhaps you are. If you do, please reach out to us and let us know how you find it. Now, Kalai, if people were trying to find you, you offered, that you were perhaps prepared to play with some people at some stages. If they were trying to find you, how could they do this?
They can get in touch with me through your Discord server, because I'm on there, as you figured it out after a while.
It took a while, yes. I don't think I said anything too embarrassing till I figured it out. I'm not sure.
I don't remember. I was just chilling because I like to talk games. Though your server, I love your server to death. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with everybody there because you guys talk so much spam that I can't keep up.
Yes, don't let it that turn you off though.
I know. I actually had to look up the term FMV from one of your podcasts a couple of weeks ago because I was like, oh, I don't know what that is, which is really surprising.
Oh, FMVs are good. They're not all spam. You could enjoy those.
I've never played an FMV.
Yeah. Well, look, you at least we're going to educate you on different things. Look, the Discord, as you mentioned, it's fantastic. I looked at it the other day, and there was a debate. What we're going to do when the zombies take over, whether it's a cricket bat or a golf club or I think even you weighed in on this.
Well, they said baseball bat, and somebody's like, "Well, baseball bat is better than a cricket bat," and I said, "Absolutely not, because a cricket bat has more surface area, so you can get a really good smack against that zombie's face."
Look, it's very valid. So there you go, listeners. Come and join the Push2Plat Discord. We talk about spam and how to attack zombies.
Yeah. You can also reach me on the Game Stuff Facebook group. It's just search for Game Stuff Podcast. Ask for an invite. We do a lot of talking over there. I post a lot of pictures, including stuff I'm currently playing and pictures of my beer selection because I love beer. You can get in touch with me on Twitter at Kalai21. That's KALAI, the number 21. I am on the PlayStation at Miley1978, and I'm on the Xbox at Miley21, and I'm on Steam at Kalai21.
We have you covered. Well, look, I'd like to take the opportunity, Kalai. I've been looking forward to this moment for some time, and it's been wonderful today after having listened to you for so long, you, Roberto, and Joe. Which I do very much enjoy your show, as I've said before. There's not a lot of people covering some of the games that you guys are covering as well. You're covering sort of everything. It's a broad spectrum. So I would encourage any listeners, particularly if you're looking for content beyond just the PlayStation, then the Game Stuff podcast is definitely the place to check out. But as I said again, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
So listeners, let's jump across to the spam of the week. Now, I know that unfortunately there was no Push2Plat level cap last week. Time just got away from us a little bit there with everything that's going on at the moment, but I can assure you we will have an episode up at the end of this week, and we're looking at making it a little bit longer just to give you a little bit more platisfaction over the weekend. But look, I can do my best now to throw a little bit of love here on a few things, and I'm going to start with Jump Step Step. So this is a game that has been on the Xbox, so you may already be familiar with it. It's about a 40-minute plat. I mean, you could do it legit, would take a little bit longer. The premise of the game here is it's sort of like you're programming your character, if you like. You're telling it to move left, right, jump, putting it on time loops and stuff. Why this game obviously becomes such a short spam plat of around 40 minutes is that you can just look at a guide and follow the exact prompts that they tell you to put in and then get the guy to walk. There is a trophy in this game for doing it in one run with no deaths or resets, so you just need to be careful that you do enter the right commands in. But other than that, it's really straightforward. At the time of recording, the list has not yet synced on the PlayStation, but it does have a platinum and is available on the NA store for just a couple of bucks. So I'll throw that one out. There's also a game that's come out called Stab, Stab, Stab. This is basically a 2-controller spam plat, if you like, a local co-op game. This is just a matter of playing all the different levels, meeting the requirements for kills and for the style of kills. Look, there's no guide that I'm aware of at the moment, but it's not a game that necessarily needs it. Just be careful. There is a bit of a glitch with the number of wins. You have to get 10 wins, then, eventually 100 wins. At the moment, the 10-win trophy sometimes seems to be even popping after the 100 or something. So you just keep playing and it will come naturally. That can be done in as little as 3 hours or a little bit longer with that. Look, and I anticipate there will be a guide there, and the list is syncing for this one. So what else can I see? Well, I'm sure we're going to have a big week on Push to Plat Level Cap because it's quite a bit dumping this week. We've got this epic word search collection, which, look, will take you all the, will take you like an hour, probably require no brain power if you're going to use a guide, probably require quite a lot if you're not. The choice will be yours. Then just scrolling up the list, we do have a new FMV game, The Complex, that's coming out, not for 2 more weeks though, but that will probably fit in nice and quick. Explosive Jake. Now, look, what a fantastic name. Look, it's your standard spam list. Just beat every level for a trophy. Basically, they go up in progressions through to level 39, the final gold trophy. So let's hope that's a spam title in disguise. The Rada plat of last week was Super Destronaut Land Wars. If you're familiar with Super Destronaut, of course, the space arcade vertical shoot 'em up. This is now an FPS game. It's a strange beast or whatever. It plays in the same style. You've got challenges, 30 challenges of which you need to do 15. Various arcade modes, which actually give it a little bit of length, a little bit of enjoyment, but all up, maybe 30 to 40 minutes, definitely under the hour. And then, look, the last thing that I can throw at you, because that's enough to keep you busy. The last thing is this Red Death, which will be coming out this week as well. Look, it's about another 1 hour plat. I don't know too much about this other than look, it looks like it's going to be very easy as well. It's just a matter of losing ships, picking up pickups, and killing enemies and bosses. High score. So look, there is something for everybody there. How can there not be? And I know there's various things going on at the moment. There's a massive spam fest going on one of the big sites for trophies or whatever in their PlayStation celebration. So, if you're partaking in that, by all means, good luck to you. It's been impressive for me just to see how many trophies people are earning. It's fantastic. It's crazy, I should say. So, perhaps they should be giving us the spam of the week. They're definitely well in touch. So let's jump across. We're getting to the end, I promise. We're getting to the end, listeners. Let's jump across to the Push2Plat Platinum Club shoutouts. So if you like the idea of getting your name read at the end of the episode when you've got a plat, jump on the PS4, go to Communities, Push2Plat Platinum Club. It's free to join. You can post your platinum pictures, post the number if you so wish, or a little comment, and we'll give it an airing each week. So to start off with this week, we have Mindy, and she has been busy. Number 601, Akash. And look, a little bit of male, a little bit of light porn there in her plat pitch. If you want to see that, by all means, log in. Number 602, Indivisible. Number 603, Riverbond. It's a fantastic game, also free on Game Pass. Get on it. Number 604, True Fear Part 2, the NA stack. We have ZutJNL. Now, again, I apologize, but you've given me a pass on your name, I think. I still feel bad. Number 26, Marvel Spider-Man. That's a big one. Congratulations, sir. Dat1 Seagull dropping plenty of spam in his penultimate spam. I think, well, actually, that might be his ultimate. I don't think he's taking a break. Mechabolt, the Asian stack for PS4, plus a smattering of Vita, EU, NA, and AS. And he indeed did get his adrenaline right there by the look. Olsero drops in with number 630, Super Destronaut Land Wars. It is an FPS this time. Indeed, sir. Indeed, sir, it is. Malachen, number 165, Tales from the Borderland. The East Side, look, he's slowing down this week by the look here. Only one, friends. He's on number 634, the Nippon Marathon. But I did see him playing some Final Fantasy 12 the other day, so fantastic. That might take you 2 weeks. I'm not sure. Maybe a week for you. We shall see. Zador VP, number 456, Life is Strange 2. EDJG3DG, Dragon Ball Fighters. So good at auto combos, I'm going to win the next Dragon Ball Fighters World Tour, baby. Well, good luck to you. Good luck to you indeed, sir. More skill than I have. And Redbeard Rick, he drops a beast on us right at the last minute here today, just before adding this section in. Number 125, Skyrim VR 100%. That's right, VR 100%. That is crazy. That's all 3 stacks done now, until they port it to the PS5 anyway. Well, that's something to look forward to, isn't it? PS5 VR, So listeners, thank you so much for joining us, whether you be first-time listener or return voyager. We appreciate your company every week. It's a very tumultuous time. I know. So if you're struggling, if things are dicey, if things are not good, and I know they're not good in many, many parts of the world, I hope we can provide you some at least relief for a short period of time. If you're trying to find us, we're available on all good podcast providers plus YouTube. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can do so at push2plat, push the number 2plat on Twitter. You can send us an email at push2plat@gmail.com. Just want to hang out and say hi, talk some games, maybe have a laugh, maybe get over spammed. Come and jump in the Discord. It'll be in the show notes. And if you want to post a plat pic, do it in the Push2Plat Platinum Club for a guaranteed shout out in the following week's episode. If you like what you heard today and you're in a position to help us out a little bit, then jump on our Patreon page at Push2Plat and join our Patreon family. We really, really appreciate it. It helps us to continue to bring you this show each week. And I'd like to make special mention of our Patreon producers, Sprunky, Scottish Noob, and Zador VP. We really, really appreciate you. So until next week, listeners, in whatever country you're residing, in whatever situation you're currently enduring, be safe, be well, have fun, smile, earn trophies. May they fly every which way, landing on your profile. May your level rise. May we smash the cap together. May we be the best trophy and achievement whores we can be. See you next week.